Hello everybody, I'm Martin. Today we're here to talk about Applied Energistics 2, or AE2 for short, which is a crafting automation, logistics, and mass storage solution. Now, to be clear, this tutorial is very specific for the 1.16 and beyond versions. There were some significant changes starting in that version, so if you were playing on an older version of the mod, be aware that not everything I'm going to say actually applies. And today we're going to go into the very basics of how to get bootstrapped into a starting AE2 system to even begin with. And one of the very first things you need to do is find one of these meteorites that are scattered throughout the world on WorldGen when you have AE2 installed. They can be just about anywhere, including underwater. And they can range from very easy to nearly impossible to find, depending on how lucky you are. That said, if you aren't lucky enough to find one on WorldGen, there are solutions. The big one being the Meteorite compass, which lets you find the closest meteorite to your current location. And it's made by tossing the normal Minecraft compass into one of the devices from this pack, the charger. And the charger is pretty simple to make. It's just iron and copper, assuming you're not playing a mod pack with a modified recipe. That said, the charger does require power, and AE2 does come with its own power source, but frankly, I would highly recommend playing with another mod to produce power because A, you're not going to need all that much automation without other mods to begin with, and B, well, this power source is pretty awful. But it's the AE2 vibration chamber, which burns coal and turns it into AE2's power. You do, however, need to make an energy acceptor, which requires making quartz glass, which requires the Certus quartz, which we don't have yet. So that's all problematic if you haven't even found a meteorite yet. So instead, for now, I'm going to assume you are sane and have a normal power source from something else. In this case, I'm just going to use a creative battery for demo purposes. But we'll put that down and we'll put our charger down next to it, which will then immediately power up. This does not actually require a working ME network, which is what we'll be building in a later tutorial, to actually operate. And from here, we can just put the compass in, it will slowly charge, and then turn into the meteorite compass. And there we go. If we hold the meteorite compass in our hand, it points to the nearest meteorite to us. And this is one of the behaviors that has changed in 1.16 and beyond. Because if we come out to our meteorite here, prior to 1.16, these compasses, as far as I remember, used to look for the skystone the meteors are made of. So if you left a partial meteorite in place that you've already mined out the interior contents of, or if you're playing with other players, well, good luck. Instead, if we pop this open, you can see that the interior of the meteorite now has contents in it, including a mysterious cube and a bunch of Certus quartz and budding Certus quartz blocks. Now, one of the things I want to point out is, while you do want to pick up that mysterious cube, if you use a Silk Touch pickaxe, it's going to pick up the cube itself, and then you end up with an item that if you look in JEI and start clicking, you won't find any recipes for, and it can be a very confusing mess. If we put this down, however, and use a non-Silk Touch pickaxe on it, out pop all of the various presses that we need to make the various circuits for this mod. The other thing we want to do is go grab all of the Certus quartz from here and pick it up. There are also these budding Certus quartz blocks that if you use a non-Silk Touch pickaxe just become normal quartz blocks, and we don't want to do that because these operate like amethyst from vanilla Minecraft, and they grow crystals on them over time, and this is how you get a recurring source of Certus. There are, however, multiple types of these. There are flawless, flawed, chipped, and damaged. If you use a Silk Touch pickaxe on any except the flawless, it will pick up the block and you can place it wherever you want. That said, these blocks are consumable resources that will eventually wear out, and there is a recipe for recreating new ones. If we go down to the weakest one, the damaged one, you can actually make them out of normal Certus quartz blocks, a charged Certus quartz crystal, and dump them in water. The flawless ones, however, we need to have a talk about because those are exactly like amethyst. If you break them with anything, they just disappear and cannot be used. They cannot be moved unless you somehow have an item from another mod in your pack that will also would let you move amethyst. Things like cardboard boxes from Mechanism, because they cannot be broken otherwise. That said, the flawless ones do not degrade over time, so if you have the means to move them, or if you can build your base straight on top of a meteorite, that's not the worst thing imaginable. All right, so assuming that you now have some budding quartz and you have Certus quartz back in your base, now what do you do? Well, you'll start by noticing that Certus quartz clusters grow on this, and they grow in several stages, much like amethyst does. This is the final stage, and you just hit it with your pickaxe to mine it, and off pop Certus crystals. If you do this to ones that are not fully grown yet, you instead get Certus dust. Certus dust is used in other recipes and can be made inside the Inscriber by grinding up Certus quartz crystals as well, if you need more of it. That said, once you have Certus quartz going, there's one other material that is made from it that we need to discuss next, because it is also a highly used component. And those are Fluix crystals made by submerging a charged Certus quartz crystal, redstone, and some nether quartz inside some water. So what you start by doing is putting the Certus quartz into the charger to create, well, charged Certus quartz. And from there, you toss that into the water with the redstone and the nether quartz, which very quickly creates the Fluix crystals. So now that you have the other basic material and you have the means to do this, we can now actually move on to creating proper AE2 systems. But the very first thing you're going to want to probably spend Fluix on, if you are getting your Certus from budding Certus quartz and not some other source in a mod pack, is probably build as many crystal growth accelerators as your power system can handle and your initial crystal sources. Because you do need Fluix to bootstrap into this. You need to start with a Fluix block, which is just more Fluix crystal. You need these quartz glass that we showed up with the vibration chamber, which is just more Certus dust, as well as Fluix ME glass cables, which are the basic cables for the AE2 systems, which is more Fluix, as well as a quartz fiber, which is for providing power along the networks, which is just more Certus dust. So whatever you can reasonably afford early on will make your life easier later. So the way these crystal growth chambers work is you put them next to any open side of a crystal. It can support multiples of these, and they will speed up the growth. That said, they do require being hooked up to a proper AE2 network to work to do this, and they require power being passed in that's AE2 power. And the power can only be sent in from the top. So we could hook up that vibration chamber right here to pass power in as before, because that is an actual AE2 system. But I think because we already showed how to hook it to an external power, we'll continue with that. And to do that, we need to hook it up to an energy acceptor, which is what pulls in power from an external non-AE2 source. From there, we can put down our primitive energy cube, but this could be powered from anything like an advanced generator, and a normal power cable from whatever other mod you want to pass power into the network. Now that we have power flowing in, you can see that these are now getting all electric-y, and the crystals are growing significantly faster. Each of these crystal growth accelerators can support a connection on each given side of it. You can checkerboard these out to provide more growth speed overall to everything next to it. So that gets us through the very, very beginning basics of this. The next step we need to do is actually use all of the Certus that we're making. And to do that, we need to make an Inscriber, which again, relatively basic materials other than needing slime balls for sticky pistons. And much like the charger, these can be provided power via normal RF systems. They don't need to come in through an energy acceptor. And if we come in here, you can see that it has room for multiple inputs. And if we look at the recipes that these things can make, it makes all of the various circuits that are used in all of the other machines we're going to make for AE2. It also can turn Certus quartz into dust, as well as ender pearls, which is, this is an advanced use, and Fluix crystals into Fluix dust, and skystone into skystone dust, all of which we will need later. Also importantly, if you're playing on a server with other players, you can also duplicate the presses with a block of iron to create more, to save people the trouble of having to find more, or if you need to make multiples. Because one of the things you're going to want to do very early on, once you start automating things, is have at minimum one press per circuit type you need to make, which is going to be at minimum 7 of these presses. One of the other basic materials you're going to have to make early on is silicon for this, because it's used in every single circuit, and it's just made from Certus quartz dust that's been run through a furnace. Once you have these together, you put the correct press in. In this case, we're going to make the silicon one, add the silicon, and then you'll watch this take forever to process it, and then out pops the printed silicon. Now, I should note that you can only ever have one item in here and one item in here. This does not accept stacks. It's really annoying. There are solutions to that in other mods, and we will address that in another video later, in the form of AE2 stuff or AE2 things, depending on which version of Minecraft you're playing on. But then we continue on and also make another circuit, in this case the logic circuit, and then we can take both of those circuits and combine them with redstone to actually make one of the final circuits we need to make other machines. And this is how most of them work. In stock AE2, there are 3 types of chips that you need: the logic, calculation, and engineering ones, which between those and the base circuits as well as the silicon adds up to the 7 that I was referring to. But from here, this is where things get complicated, and we're going to want to set up a proper inventory system and automation, but we'll discuss those things in the next couple of episodes. If you found this interesting and entertaining, please consider leaving a like or subscribe if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.